possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. Good morning, church, and good morning, church online. I'm so glad that y'all are here today. Let's take a moment and worship together. There is no shadows that has ever overcome your life. There is no rival that could ever stand against your mind. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won. You've already won. There is no weapon that has ever left a mark on you. And there is no army with the power to conquer you. You've always been with us. Every battle we've already won. We've already won. Show me one thing you get. Show me a mountain you get. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. Hey. There is
What's up, Venture family? I'm Vincent, Church Online pastor here at Venture Church, and we're glad that you decided to worship with us on today. And we're going to start today a little differently. If you're watching with us on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else that is not online.venturechurch.org, I'm going to give you a chance to fix that. Below, you'll see a QR code. You'll see a link where you can join us over on the platform. There you'll find myself, a host of volunteers, and the rest of your Venture community there waiting, willing, and ready to engage with you. So join us over on the platform today. Last week, if you missed last week, man, it was a great experience. We got a chance to share an awesome story, and we talked about the power of invitation. You also missed a little bit of a challenge, one that we're gonna start this experience with by me simply asking, who is your one? And if you're with us last week, you know I asked that question and I challenged you to bring your one to this experience. So if you're watching with us on the platform, take a second now to share this experience. You'll see a button below where you can easily do that. And if you're not on the platform, use the QR code or the link below to bring not only yourself, but your one to this experience today. Join us over on the platform. You do not want to miss the accessibility, the amenities, and the atmosphere that is our Church Online community. Speaking of community, Jones County Campus Pastor Kyle Warren is bringing a message today on the importance of community. And I love the way he puts it. He says that we're every human heart, we're searching not only for a community, right, but for calling. Not only for a purpose, but a people to live that purpose out with. And I'm excited to unpack that message with you today. It's going to be one that I feel is going to be very powerful and meaningful to you. So I'm looking forward to that message on today. We also want you to know that Love Your Neighbor is right around the corner, and we don't want you to miss out on what you can do to impact your community through serving. If you're interested in Love Your Neighbor, or maybe you don't even know what that is, it's just Venture Church's way of saying, hey, let's get out in the community and let's love on our people, both near and far. So you'll see a button, you'll see a QR code, a link below that will direct you to that webpage to give you all the information that you need to know about what Venture Church is doing to love on our neighbors. There on the webpage, you will find all the different anchor projects for all of our physical campuses. And I'm excited to announce next week what our Church Online community will be doing for our anchor project for Love Your Neighbor. So go ahead and interact with that QR code, that link below. Get over to that webpage and find out what you can do to love on your neighbor next week. Also, we're about to get into a time of worship. I'm going to get into that message from Kyle, and then I want you to join me right back here for you and I to unpack some practical ways, right? Some practical steps that you can take to biblical community, to investing in a people that is here for you, that is for you, and that wants to help you continue in your walk to know, love, and follow Jesus. We'll see you in the chat.
So good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God always chases me down, lies till I'm found, leave when I belong. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wrench His treasure. How great the pain of shearing loss. The Father turns His face away as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon His shoulder. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held Him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for it all, oh God. I will not boast in anything. much for worshiping with us. You may go ahead and take your seat.
My name is Kellen Lane, and I am the house church pastor at Burnt Bridge Road. And what it means to be available is to be free to let God use you. Kind of my story, when I think back to it, is that I started with Venture about 3 years ago through an invite from a coworker, but I really didn't start getting involved until 2 years ago when I went through your venture and started working with our student ministry, and then also getting involved within growth groups. And, within that, it was so great because I could choose, what I wanted to do. And I was able to kind of schedule out my week. And a few months later, we were starting up house churches. It was one of those things in which they were telling us about. And everybody was really excited about it. But within it, I was asked to step up to be a house church pastor. And within that, I had a lot of reservations because I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is not me. That's not something which I necessarily want to do. My schedule's too busy. So when it was asked initially, I turned them down. Like, I didn't feel like that was something I wanted to do. I was like, I'll just fit it within my schedule on Wednesday nights. I'll just go to house churches on Wednesday nights. And then about a month and a half into it, it was time for us to multiply. And even then, when they asked me again, I still had a lot of reservations. It was still like, well, I got this going on. I was making excuses not to step into it. And when you think about it, and it even hurts me to say, I was saying I'm too busy for God. Like, I'm too busy to fit you in my schedule. And that really hurts. Even like when I think about it, I'm like, you putting something else before God. And I think that's what helped me make the decision of wanting to step into that role, or being willing to step into that role. Don't get me wrong, it was still uncomfortable, it was challenging, and I was thinking, I don't know if I'm necessarily qualified, but God knows what the need is, and He set me up with, two great people to help me with that. I really hadn't turned back and looked back since. It's a room full of people that are so different from each other. It ranges from age from 5 all the way up to the golden years, with people being there. And it's just been amazing to be able to see us all gel together, be really family. We're family. Y'all my ride, they're my ride or dies. Like, I'll do anything for them. You call me up and I'm there for you. It is investment from my standpoint of, hey, I got to be available for my people. But it's so great to be able to do that, and to be somebody's willing to let me step into that role and do that for sure. A couple of weeks ago, Jeff had mentioned something that really resonated with me within the message. And one of those things was, hey, we try to really put God on our calendar, but we're really on God's calendar. We need to put ourselves on His calendar and make ourselves available. And I think within house church, that is something that we need to do. But as Christians, as Christ followers, we really need to make sure that we're doing that every day, where we look for those opportunities and not see those as inconveniences within our schedule, and just make ourselves available for God to use us and step into that role and really embrace that within what He has in store for us.
Well, hey, welcome to Venture Church. Man, we are so glad that you're here. Look, if it is your first time worshiping with us, hanging out with us today, or if me and you just not have had a chance to meet yet, my name's Kyle. I'm part of the team here. Look, I've really been looking forward to today, okay? Because there's been some things that God's been showing me lately, and really, honestly, like not really new things, but really kind of putting some language around some things for me that I haven't had a chance to unpack yet. And so I've been excited to be able to unpack it today with you. So look, here's kind of what I've been thinking about. I know that it's not a secret, it's not new to anybody that we live in a culture and a time that we are people that love movements. Right? Like being a part of a movement, being a part of something. I mean, you look around every month, every time you turn the page in our culture, in our society, there is something that you can be about. There is a fight, there is a movement, there is a battle that you can take up, right? I mean, and it spans the gambit of things. We can take up a movement around wars and battles or social, racial injustice or reform in some way or paper straws. Like, I mean, it's anything, right? I mean, we can choose our fight. We can choose what we want to be for and what we want to be against. And like that's not really a new thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not necessarily a cultural phenomenon. That's not something that's been birthed out of a new generation. I mean, it's just kind of always been like we are a society built on fights, built on wars, built on taking a stand against something or for something, right? But what's been amazing to me is the lengths at which we've gone to find our definition in these things. Right, it's almost like we've lost the ability to see ourselves and to see other people as individuals. Instead, we find our definition and we find our value in a lot of ways by these titles, right? Like I'm pro this, I'm anti this. And if I understand what you're pro or what you're anti for, then I can understand you, then I'll know you. Right? I'll know, I don't have to really get to know you. I just need to know what you're for or what you're against, and then I'll understand you. And it's kind of bled over, I think, into value as well. Like we begin to see the value of people and understand the value of people almost as like the sum of things they are for or against and how that relates to the things we are for or against. And what God's been showing me in all of this is that regardless of what battle we take up, regardless of what movement we are a part of, regardless of whatever it is that we're taking a stand for, taking a stand against, at the end of the day, we're all on the same journey. And honestly, even within our particular movements, within our particular battles, no matter what side of the aisle we stand on in that, really, at the end of the day, we're on the same journey. You see, I think that as people, we all have like certain innate desires, certain innate cravings. That's just true of us. And as that, I think we all, no matter our story, no matter our background, no matter who we are, no matter what we're pro, no matter what we're against, no matter what we're for, no matter what we're not for, at the end of the day, we all crave calling and we all crave community, right? I mean, isn't it true that we all want to know that we have purpose in life? That our life has meaning, that our life has value, that it's worth something, that we are achieving something, we are pursuing something, that our life is going to make a difference in something or somebody. That's why we're a part of these movements, because we want to know that we're affecting change in some way, that I'm standing up for or against something. We want to know that there's purpose in what we do. But at the same time, isn't it so much more enjoyable to pursue that purpose with other people, to know that we're not alone in the journey? Yeah. That's why we attach ourselves to certain organizations, certain brands, because we identify with their why. We identify with their purpose and what they're about. And we attach ourselves to these organizations because we want to be associated with other people who attach themselves, who identify with this same brand, the same why, the same purpose. It's why we choose certain activities, certain habits, right? I mean, it's why we do things like travel baseball and CrossFit. It's because those things give us a purpose. And I know that's weird to think about like CrossFit being a calling, but what I mean is that like it gives us something tangible to achieve, right? Something to orient our time and our effort around, something that we can pursue, a better body or a championship ring or whatever the case might be, something that we can pursue after. But the reason we love those things so much is not just that it gives us something to pursue, but it gives us people to pursue that thing with. Right? Like I pay $10 a month to go to a gym, work out anytime I want to, $10 a month. It's a great gym. But yet there are many people that will pay over $100 a month to be a part of a CrossFit box workout. But the difference is what? The difference is there's this built-in community around it, that there's a sense of community in the calling, in the purpose, in the thing. We're in the struggle together. Man, that's attractive. We want that. And listen, I'm not saying that's bad at all. As a matter of fact, I think that's a picture of how God designed and wired us. I mean, think about it. Go back to the Garden of Eden. Go back to creation. When God created the world, God created man and he placed him in the garden and he gave us work. And it wasn't just work to like keep our hands busy. It was purpose. It was calling. God has always wanted to partner with mankind to cultivate the creation, the life that he created, right? It's always been the case. And so in the Garden of Eden, he placed man there and he gave us purpose. He gave us calling. He gave us work to be about, to help cultivate and sustain the life that he had created. And God said, this is good. It's a beautiful thing. And then he stepped back and he said, wait, you know what's not good? It's not good that man's alone. But you know what I always found interesting about that is that man wasn't alone. Man wasn't alone in the Garden of Eden. Man had perfect community with God. I mean, he walked daily in the garden with God in perfect community. It was a beautiful thing. But what wasn't good, what God was saying is not good that man should be alone, is that man was alone in his purpose, in his calling, in the work that he had set him there to do. God said it's not good that man should pursue this purpose alone. And so God created not just another being, right? God didn't just create a companion in life. God created a helper, a co-laborer, a co-worker to be about the purpose together. We want that calling, we want that purpose, and we want people in it with us. It's how God wired us. It's how God designed us. And so when we begin to ask questions like, well, what does it look like to follow Jesus? I mean, that's what this series is all about. So what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks is what we're going to be talking about. So what does it look like to follow Jesus? We're kind of brought back to these exact same realities, these exact same truths. That at the end of the day, to follow Jesus, to live a life following Jesus, is to live a life marked by both calling and community, purpose and people. Matthew chapter 28, Jesus gives us the ultimate calling, like our ultimate purpose in life. We call it the Great Commission. If you've been around church, maybe you've heard that term, the Great Commission, or the Great Commissioning. It's where Jesus gives his followers their purpose, our work, our calling, where he says, this is what I want you to be about. And he says there in Matthew chapter 28, he calls us to go to the ends of the earth, to go to our communities, our neighborhoods, to the lives of people around us. So much, go even to the ends of the earth and make disciples, make followers of Jesus, teaching them to obey all that I've commanded. I love that. Obey all that I've commanded. Because you see, to follow Jesus is not about gaining all the right knowledge, all the right information, right? Like our pastor likes to talk about, following Jesus isn't about being able to win Jesus Jeopardy. Following Jesus isn't about abstaining from all the really bad things in life. As long as I don't do those things, I'm okay. That's what Jesus wants. No. Jesus says, no. Go teach them. Go disciple them. Teach them to obey everything that I've commanded. See, following Jesus is about obeying the commands that he's given us in life, not so that we can be sheep, not so that we can blindly follow all the rules and not ask questions, right? But because God, as a loving father, as any loving father would do, God has placed guardrails around our lives so that we can enjoy the fullness of life, so that we can enjoy full satisfaction, full joy, full love, so that we can enjoy the fullness of life and abstain from it and avoid the things that will bring destruction in our lives. So to follow Jesus is to live out this command, to take a message of hope, to take a message of grace, to take a message of love and a loving heavenly Father to the darkest places of the world, to the people that are far from him. He said, go to the ends of the earth, the people that are farthest from me, and bring them into a relationship with me. So the way we'll phrase that a lot, you'll hear us talk about a vision here. The vision we believe God's given us, the purpose we believe God's given us as a church. The way we phrase that is we believe that God's called us to be a church for the unchurched, because that message of hope, that message of grace, that command that Jesus gave us wasn't just to go to the people that look like us. It wasn't to go to the religious people. It wasn't to go to the people that have life figured out, or the safe people, or the comfortable in life people. But no, go to the ends of it. Go to the people that are farthest from me and bring them into a relationship with me. That's the call that he's given us. But the truth we have to own today, all right, the truth that you and I have to own today is that ultimately our calling is going to be affected by our community. That the purpose we live out in life is going to be influenced by the people we place in our life. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Acts chapter 15. Now, we could have went, I don't know, any number of places in Scripture to kind of illustrate this point, but we're reading through the book of Acts in our reading plan here at the church, and so this is one of the chapters we're going to get to this week is Acts chapter 15. Here's what it says, verse 36. It says, after some days, Paul, the apostle Paul, said to Barnabas, let us return and visit the brothers in every city where we proclaimed the word of the Lord and see how they are. Now, Barnabas wanted to take with them John, called Mark. But Paul thought it best not to take with them one who had withdrawn from them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to the work. Paul didn't want to take Mark. And there arose a sharp disagreement, so much so that Paul and Barnabas separated from each other. Barnabas took Mark with him and sailed away to Cyprus. But Paul chose Silas, and he departed, having been commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord. Now, let me give you a little background. Let me tell you what's going on here, okay? Paul and Barnabas, they're kind of on the front lines of this call, of this purpose, of this great commissioning to go to the ends of the earth and reach people and teach them to obey all that Jesus has commanded, right? So they've been going to all the places that are far from Jesus, to the people that are far from Jesus. And they've been teaching them what it looks like to follow Jesus. They've been planting churches. And it's been an incredible thing, man. They're celebrating great things. Well, they kind of take a side. If you look earlier in Acts chapter 15, they kind of take a side from their church planting, and they're a part of what's called the Jerusalem Council. I'm not going to go into all like the historical information that's going on there, which really is a thing I kind of enjoy. But here's what's going on. The Jerusalem Council. All of these religious leaders, all these church leaders gathered together. The church leaders who had a rich history, a background in Judaism. They were of the Jewish lineage. And so they had this history and all of the Jewish rituals and traditions. But they were reaching, the New Testament church was reaching a lot of people outside of Judaism, outside of the Jewish lineage, right? And so these church leaders get together and they say, okay, we've got all these rituals and traditions, but we're reaching all of these people who are outside of these traditions. Which ones need to carry over? What of our rituals do they need to be a part of? And they hash all this out and they come to this conclusion. It really is a revolutionary idea that shapes the rest of history. They come to this conclusion. They say, you know what? We should not make it difficult for people to follow Jesus. This is a huge moment for Paul. It's a huge moment for Barnabas. I mean, this is kind of the work they've been after. And so they get ready to take this good news back to all the churches they've been planting. It's a celebration for them. But then all of a sudden, before they ever leave, they find themselves in a battle. How many of you know that just because you experience a win today doesn't mean you're not going to be in a battle tomorrow? And look, I don't say that to like give you anxiety about what might happen tomorrow. Man, life's going good. Why are you going to say that? And that's not why. What I'm trying to say is, look, we need to be aware. We need to pay attention. And we need to ready ourselves for those moments. And the way we ready ourselves for those moments is with the right people around us. You see, Paul found himself in a battle of isolation. A battle that I think a lot of us know very well. Man, I thought I could trust you. And you went and did that? Man, you're supposed to be in my corner. And you're going to stab me in the back like that? Man, I thought we were in this together. I can't believe you're going to leave me like that. And like, I don't know about you, but when I'm in those moments, I'm going to be honest with you, like my gut reaction is to withdraw. I do. Look, if you don't want to be about this with me, fine, forget you. I don't want to be about it with you either. And what ends up happening is we build these walls. We get hurt by these people that we trust and we love, and they're supposed to be in our corner. Man, they're supposed to be with us in it. And what happens is we begin to build up these walls that feel a lot like protection, but in reality, they're walls of isolation. Man, I had a conversation with somebody earlier today after one of our experiences. An 80-plus-year-old lady said, man, I've been so isolated. We find ourselves we just look up all of a sudden, we find ourselves in these battles of isolation, these seasons of isolation. This is Paul, instead of going at it alone, instead of saying, you know what, Barnabas, fine. You don't want to be here, it's fine. Before Paul ever leaves, he chooses another coworker, another companion, another person to be in the battle, in the journey with him, Silas. Why? Because Paul knew that the battles that take place in the trenches of life, man, they're better fought together. They just are. That's why I will say all the time, like, we are better together because we are better when we are together in the journey, in the fight, in the trenches. Like, I am better with you. You are better with me. It's better that we don't have to fight the fight alone, whatever that fight looks like, right? It's better when we're together. Let me give you a little bit of life advice right here. Temporary friendships are built around temporary targets. Temporary friendships are built around temporary targets. But biblical community is based on an eternal purpose. See, temporary friendships, they're built in temporary seasons, and they lead to temporary results. But biblical community that's built on an eternal purpose, man, that leads to real growth in our purpose, growth in our calling. Now, look, please understand me in this. I'm not saying that temporary friendships are necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, some of the most influential people in my life came out of temporary seasons, temporary friendships. Not bad people, not bad friends. We actually had really good friendships. But it's just, The reality is our friendships were built around seasons of life, and were built because we were chasing after the same things, temporary things, and now those seasons are gone and those achievements are gone, and so are the friendships. Like we're not in the trenches of life together anymore. They were influential to me, but we're not in life together anymore. And my great fear for us is not that we're going to have temporary friendships, but my fear for us is that we're going to make an eternal sized investment in temporary things. See, when we talk about community, we use this word investment. We say, hey, if you're going to follow Jesus, part of that's going to be investing in community. And we use that word invest intentionally because community is going to cost you some things. It just is. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you resources. It's going to cost you attention. Any friendship, any community, any habit, any activity, it is going to cost you these things. You cannot avoid that. But my fear is that we are going to make an eternity-sized investment of those things, that we are going to give our first fruits of our time and our attention and our resources to temporary seasons and temporary results, that we're going to orient our life around first and foremost temporary things, and we're going to miss the opportunity to invest well in eternal movements and eternal significance. Like what I want us to see so much today. So when we talk about investing our time and our resources and our attention, we talk about community, like we're talking about something so much more than just friendships, right? Your investment is in more than just friendships. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 and 25 says this, and let us think about how to stir up one another to love and good works. How do we challenge one another to love, to do good things, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, because being together is important, but instead encouraging one another all the more as you see the day drawing near. You see, your investment in community, how you spend your time and your resources and your attention, your investment in community is ultimately an investment in yourself. You see, if we're going to experience the fullness of life, if we're going to live a fulfilled life, if we're going to experience that full joy and that full peace and that full satisfaction, which, by the way, God wants for us, like God desires for us to experience that fullness of life. If we're going to experience that in life, then listen, we do not need another self-help book. We need people that will help. We need people in our corner that is going to challenge us, that's going to stir us up to love and good works. It's going to challenge us to take a step, to do something, to grow in our faith, to grow in our following of Jesus and our obedience. We need people that's going to encourage us in the valleys of life and the seasons that we need sustaining. We need people. We need people in our corner. Your investment in community, it's an investment in your future. Now look, we all, no matter what stage of life we're in, we all have a responsibility to invest in the next generation, to raise up the next generation. We do. But parents, let me talk to you for just a minute here. Because you have a unique responsibility to shepherd your child's investment. You do. In the same way that you are spending your time and attention and resources, you're spending that for your child at a young age. And in that, you're teaching them how to invest that at an older age. Their time, their resources, their attention. And so when you think about the life you want your child to live, when you think about the person you want them to be, I'm not talking about their job, I'm not talking about their social standing, I'm talking about their character, who they are. Are you investing well? Are you putting them in places around people that are going to cultivate that within them? When I was 14, 15 years old, couldn't drive yet, getting drunk every other weekend, with adults that were responsible for cultivating my character but were far more interested in being my friend. Parents, they don't need you to be their friend. They need you to cultivate something good in them. But man, when I was there building addictive, destructive habits before I was even fully formed, it wasn't the dugout that saved me. I don't have anything against baseball, but I'm just telling you it wasn't Man, I grew up playing baseball, loved it, made great friends on the field, people who are highly influential in my life. But that's not what brought my life back from destruction. It's just not. What saved me was the community that had been built around me in church. I mean, thank God my mother made church a priority in my life. Because had it not been for that, had it not been for the community built around me in that setting, in that moment, I wouldn't be here today. The way you spend your time and your attention and your resources now, the way you're spending that for your children now, is going to have a humongous impact on their life and your life later. Here's the last point. It's kind of the point that, honestly, we've been talking about the whole time, is that ultimately, your investment in your community is an investment in your purpose. Acts chapter 2, verse 42 says this, and they, being the followers of Jesus, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship. So they were giving their time and their attention and their resources. They broke bread together and they shared prayers together. And it says that awe and wonder came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. This, by the way, Acts chapter 2 tells us the story, the beginning of the church. This moment that we're a part of right now began in community. It began when community gathered together around a like calling, when purpose and people aligned together, miracles happened. But listen, here's what I want you to see in those verses, that they did not just experience the miracle, no, they became the miracle. Life change began to happen through them, in their communities, in their neighborhoods, in the lives of the people they touched and they reached. We love movements, fights, stands. We love taking them. And I think the fact that a new one seems to pop up every single month. There's always a new movement we can be a part of. I think that just goes to show kind of what we're talking about, that we love trying to find purpose and calling and what we're for, what we're against, right? But in the same way, man, I'm so afraid that we've become desensitized to these movements because they're so quick. They're here now and they're gone tomorrow. And it really doesn't matter what I'm taking a stand against because there's going to be something new to fight against tomorrow. And yet somewhere along the way in our craving and our desire to find fulfillment in our calling and our purpose, we've missed the fact that the church is the greatest life-giving, life-changing movement that's ever existed. Like you might have come to church today. You might be watching today for the very first time. Maybe it's the first time you've been around in 10 years and you're thinking, man, this isn't the way I remember church. This isn't the way I thought church was going to happen. Like this kind of looks new. There's some lights. It's kind of shiny. I don't know about all this. Look, yeah, it might look new and shiny on the outside the way some things happen, but you got to understand, man, this moment that we're a part of, we are connected in this moment to centuries worth of life change. A movement that God told us would not be stopped, that not even the gates of hell would prevail against his church. That's what we're a part of. A movement that has eternal significance, eternal weight, eternal meaning. That's what we get to be a part of. That's what we are a part of. That's our calling. That's our purpose. A calling and a purpose, that by definition happens through community. When people are gathered together in like purpose and like calling, miracles begin to happen. And so look, my challenge for you is really simple. So begin to look at how you are investing. How are you spending your time and your energy and your resources and your attention? What are you investing in? Who are you investing in? What's the results of that investment? Are you investing in a community that will invest back in you? That's returning the investment in you. And the way you invest in community, in biblical community here at Ventura, it's what we call house church, right? House church it's a beautiful picture of community that's happening in Acts chapter 2, where people are gathered together on Wednesday nights. People will gather together in neighborhoods, in homes, places where you can get to easily, people that live around you, that work around you, people that are gathered online who are part of our online campus. I mean, people gather together in community and house church on Wednesday nights, and it's a place where you can invest in others and others can invest well in you. It's where we dive into the truths of God's word, and man, it's not just friendships, but it's an eternal purpose built around our growth in our calling, our growth in our purpose that God's given us. And so look, my challenge for you today is to invest well in community. take 6 months. You will invest more than 6 months in dance, which is fine. It's not a bad thing. Man, what would happen if you would take that same investment and you would give it first to a community that's going to invest back in you? Invest well in a house church. And look, if you're a part of a house church, understand, I'm not asking you to attend because you're like, bro, I'm about that. I'm already going. No, I'm asking you to invest. Really look at the way you're giving your time and your attention to that. Invest well in others. Invest well in that moment. And watch, because you'll be amazed. Watch what God not only does in you, but through you. Hey, let me pray for us, church. Lord, we come before you, God. I thank you for today. I thank you for this moment, for this movement that you allow us to be a part of, for the life change that we get to see, the life change that we get to celebrate. God, I thank you for the community that you place around us, the purpose and the calling that you've given us, and the fact that we don't have to be about that alone, but you've placed people around us to cultivate that. And God, I pray that we will invest well in others. God, I pray that you will guide us in it. Lord, that you'll use us in our communities, in our neighborhoods, for life change, for eternity change, all for your glory and for your honor. Lord, we love you and we praise you. Amen.
I had a conversation this past week with someone about friendships. And we discussed a gamut of different things. We discussed dynamics, we discussed commitment, we discussed longevity. And he began to talk about how this specific friendship was different, that there was a level of community, a level of care, a specific genuineness to this specific friendship, unlike he'd experienced before. And it took me back to my college days. Maybe you can vibe with this. You go to college and you have this new sense of identity and you find a core group of friends that you feel like, hey, this is forever. This is for life. And I had that same sort of experience. I'd found a circle of people that I connected with on a level unlike anything I had before. But I think that you can agree with me when we say we look back over those friendships, right? And I think that I learned two things. God puts people in your life for a reason, and he puts people in your life for a season. And it's up to us to kind of stay woke and be keen, right, to what God is doing in our lives in and through us and what we are to be to that specific core group of friends. And I'm happy to say that now, multiple years later, that the majority of those people are still in my life. And I'm well aware of the role that I play in that friendship. But imagine what life would have been like if I would have invested my time, my resources that Kyle just talked about, into something that God didn't have for me. I love the way he says it. I'm gonna read this quote. Kyle says, "Temporary friendships are built around temporary targets. Don't make eternal-sized commitments on temporary things." And that's just period. I mean, that's with your life. That's with your everyday decisions. That's with your schedule, right? And I love that he says that we're struggling, right? We're hurting. We're all going through something. Maybe today you're even feeling alone. Maybe you're feeling lonely. But don't confuse being lonely with alone. Maybe you're struggling today. Maybe there's some sort of hurt that you're going through. But you don't have to do that alone. That's what today's message is about, finding biblical community. And the way that you can do that is by finding your house church. Find your home. Maybe you're looking for a group of friends. You find that in house church. Maybe you're looking for a group of believers to build your life after. You can do that in a house church. No, it's not a group. It's not a clique. House church is home. So take a second to find your home today. You'll see a QR code below. Kyle says it this way. He says, if you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself, then you need more people than just yourself. So take a second right now to find your house church home. We also want you to connect with us at this time. Maybe you have questions. Maybe you just have a prayer request, whatever that may be. You can find that here with us as well. So take a second right now to engage with us, to connect with us, for us to answer those questions for you on today. We also never want this time to pass without thanking you for your generosity. Maybe you're a first-time guest here today at Venture, and we don't want you to feel compelled to give. your time is appreciated enough. But if that is something that God has placed on your heart, you'll find a QR code below that will direct you through the different ways that you can give to the mission and vision of what God is doing here at Venture Church. Don't forget, come back next week. We'll be talking about and dropping our big thing for Love Your Neighbor here for Church Online. And we don't want you to miss out on that. And we'll be back for part 4 of our series called Available. See you next week.